How many Kagans did it take to put this interview together? That's what
Yeah, both of them.
we got to shout out the Kagans. Come on.
Yeah, well, actually, to be honest, Amanda and her sister have been trying to find the right album for me for the longest time. And out of a list of 500 albums, you would think it would be bigger and a little easier to find some common ground, but you know.
7 Kagans on the Kagan scale.
It's like the popcorns for the
It's so funny. We got to keep using that. How many? What's the Kagan scale?
The scale of Kagan.
Dude, well, I'll say this because obviously immediately I'm like, oh, this dude rules. And you get that, you know, it's hard to get that, Mike, when we're doing them online. And we've gotten to the point now, at least where we're using there's no real lack in the, you know, the timing. So making a joke or whatever it is, it can go through and it hits immedately. You know what I mean? And I can get your vibe and you can get mine and it's great. It can be difficult. And so what's so great is immediately even with the headphone thing, I was like, oh, this dude's awesome. We're great. We're good to go. Because Emily will be pushing people. And by the way, Emily, I know you're listening. I'm not shitting on you whatsoever. We love you. We think you're great. You're literally keeping the show going. And so all due respect with what I'm about to say, there's love behind it. But she'll push for people a lot of time, and she's been pushing for you. And dude, obviously, like, I'm a musician fan. I'm a fan of the art. You know, I love drumming, and so, you know, like, even when I told Bill Burr that I was sitting down with you today because he's a drummer, he was stoked to know that, you know, that we were jamming. And that being said, there's a couple people that she's pushed for, and I'm just gonna tell this story because it's funny. Is Jared? I'm gonna talk about what's his name? The guy from when we did Lou Reed. Remember Lou Reed? We were doing it with Penn.
Oh,
Penn from Penn and Teller.
Yeah,
dude.
Penn Jillette.
So Penn Jillette, brilliant comedian. So I mean, literally in the top, and you talk about like the top 100 comics of all time, he is definitely somebody that would be in there. I have all the respect for him in the world. On the Kagan level, we're talking Code Red. Like, she wanted this guy so bad. And I mean, it's like we're dealing with it and this, that, and the other thing. And this is why I was also shocked. So to everybody listening, when Jeremiah and Mike just suddenly popped up on my screen, I was texting like, where is everybody? Am I late? And you guys were there. And it was like me and Jeremiah, and we're talking, and I'm venting because it's like, dude, and the fucking this and the that. And it's like, and for some reason, M's just, you know, sucking the dick of this recording of this guest. And at that, dude, but at that moment, Penn clicks in and he hears me going, sucking the dick of this guest. And we're like, and he's like, he goes, sucking the dick of this guest. And I'm like, I mean, but we were very happy. It was just, but he was like, once again, he was just a cool guy. So he rolled with it, but it was
figure of speech.
Yeah, people use that all the time.
Well, so I'm happy to do it. I mean, personally, there's nothing I hate more than just traditional interviews. I love talking about other bands, other albums, movies, TV, music, lists. I mean, that's what I'm all about. I mean, I'm a music fan. This is my music room, and you can see. You could see I'm just a collector and a fan, and I could sit here and talk albums and music and bands with you guys all day. That's my favorite thing on earth.
Do you pinch yourself? Do you pinch yourself when you get to sit back and realize that, you know, I know you're just a Jewish kid from New York, and you know, to know that, dude, like, you did it. You wanted life. Like, and it's not even like you're the most famous guy in the world or the richest guy, but you're rich. And I mean, look at your room, dude. You've got every little doodad you could ever ask for. And you get to do this. Like, I constantly have to remind myself how great my life is when it doesn't seem like it in so many ways, because one little thing might not be going right. And you're like, oh God, it's just this. Because I got the Jewish mom that's like, you know, her motto is God hates us. So like, so you know what I mean? It's like
I played on a song called "God Hates Us" with Avenged Sevenfold. So it's in my repertoire.
That's perfect.
My mom co-wrote it.
Yeah,
my back hurts. My back hurts. The doctors can't find what's wrong with me. Fibromyalgia. Did we hit record on that? That's a hit. So
Yeah.
so why out of all the records on the Kagan scale that we wanted to get you for, how did you end up being here for Elton John? And not for nothing. I understand Elton's he's one of the greatest songwriters, one of the greatest rock stars of all time, but also I don't.
It's an unlikely alliance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm just a big fan of most stuff from the 60s and 70s. I mean, that's my sweet spot. That's when I grew up. That's when I was a kid. We're going to talk about Captain Fantastic. That album came out when I was 8 years old, and I was listening to it in real time back then. That's when I was listening. So, this music, this album, Elton in general, and a lot of other artists from that era have a huge sweet spot for me. And I know, like Emily and Amanda have been trying to get me on the show, and they keep submitting albums. And honestly, the Rolling Stone top 500 albums, there's going to be a lot of things in there that I inevitably don't like. I'm not I'm not a Dylan fan or a band fan or a Dead fan. So they kept popping out these possibilities and possible albums to talk about. They just weren't in my wheelhouse. And then I guess I wore a Captain Fantastic shirt recently when I did Drumeo, and Drumeo videos they all go viral. They all get millions and millions of hits. So I guess wearing a Captain Fantastic shirt on that, they realized that I was a fan of the album, and then it clicked when they saw it on the list, and here we are.
I love it. Drumeo is that thing where it's like they bring you in and then they play the music without the drums, and then you skadoodle over it. What was your groove, and what was your song?
They have two series. One is where they play you a song without the drumming and you create your own drums. And then the other thing they have is when they play you a song with drums and you have to learn it as fast as possible. So the learning as fast as possible thing, I did a Tool song, and a 12-minute Tool song, which was the biggest fucking drum challenge they ever gave anybody. And it took me like 5 hours to learn this song on the spot with cameras rolling. So that was a real challenge. But the other series that I did with them, where you have to create your own drums, they gave me two that were both fun. One was a Nickelback song, and one was a Taylor Swift song. It has to be a song that you never heard before. And nobody could believe that I had never heard this Taylor Swift song, because they pulled up the video and it had something like 30 billion views or something like that, none of which were me. And I never heard Taylor Swift. So anyway, that I happened to be wearing a Captain Fantastic shirt when I was given that challenge, and that video went viral with millions and millions of views. And I guess that's how they realized I was a fan of this album. But yeah, Drumeo's the shit these days. Like every video they put out is just pure entertainment and educational and great viewing.
The stuff that I've seen has been really cool. Like I watched like the Mars Volta's drummer, the new one, like go over like this, and you're like, oh, it's cool to see their interpretation of what they think that would be. Right. What did you do? Do you remember the Taylor Swift song? Because I'm actually curious. Like,
yeah, it was Shake It Off, which now I know is a huge song, but I don't listen to pop music, like I guess I heard the song in a supermarket one day or an elevator one day. Inevitably, I heard it in the background, but I never knew who it was, never paid attention. And I'm like, they could have given me a Beyonce song. They could have given me a Kanye song. I wouldn't have known any of those as well. I'm just not hip to that kind of stuff,
Yeah. That's the one Taylor Swift song that I know. I know like two of them, well, three of them because of my niece, but yeah, dude, Shake It Off. You really are under a rock. That room, you must have no internet there. Like, it's like, it's my bunker. We know nothing. Like, that's crazy.
Exactly.
Did you go hardcore with it? How did you?
I did. Well, they give you the song and you don't know what it is you're listening to. So even after playing it for me, I still didn't know it was Taylor Swift. And they're like laughing at me for being so clueless. And I thought it was some like Disneyland song, like Japanese Disneyland theme song or something like that. I don't know. I'd never heard of it. But I went off. I just kind of added all crazy fast double bass parts and, did my thing. And it was fun. And people loved it.
I'm going to check it out. I'm so stoked to watch that. Yeah. So obviously we're talking about Elton John today. Captain, let me make sure I get all this right. Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Where do you put this?
I have the vinyl right here.
Which might be which might be one of the coolest. And I want to make sure I give this guy a shout out who made the album cover, because it really is. So intricate cover art designed by pop artist Alan Aldridge, drawing fantastic imagery from the Renaissance painting, The Garden of Earthly Delights by, I'm not going to get this name right, Harmonious Bosch. I fucked that up. The original LP package also includes 2 booklets, a lyrics booklet, another booklet. You got all that. You've got all the doodads.
This is my original vinyl from the 70s. I mean, this is the original pressing from when I was a kid. And it came with 2 booklets, one of the lyrics, and all the lyrics have images and photos and stuff that go with each song. Kind of like what he did with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road a few years earlier. But this is really cool with its own booklet. And then it's got a scrapbook with all pictures from Elton and Bernie Taupin's past, because this album is kind of autobiographical about them struggling as young artists and musicians. So it's got the scrapbook, and it also came, I still have the original poster as well with the gatefold, the full image as a gatefold poster. Yeah, which way am I going?
No, I see it. No, we got it. Yeah, go more. Yeah, more. Yeah. I mean, we see it. That's incredible. That just shows you just, you know,
the way vinyl used to be back then.
Yeah,
I remember you'd buy Kiss albums. They'd come with pop-ups and paper guns and posters and booklets. I mean, they really gave you all the cool stuff back then in the 70s.
My dad didn't have my dad had a bunch of like jazz records, but you know, one of the records I remember him having was Black Moses by Isaac Hayes, and if you unfolded it, it was literally Moses. It was Isaac Hayes as like in a shroud, or what do you call that? A cloak. And kind of like with his arms out, and it was like almost in like a cross, and it was so cool. I put that up on my wall, but really it's just it's what seeing that and thinking of what I just said, it makes me realize, and everybody realize probably, just how the albums that you get now are just, it's not even, most people aren't even getting the record. They're just getting the download of it. And
you're getting a thumbnail on your phone, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's Morty, our guy that helps me with every episode. Big shout out to DJ Morty Coyle, who was going to join us today, but the timing didn't work out. He says, can you be, you can be proud of your record collection. Can you be proud of your MP3 collection? Right. Can you look at that and be like, look at all these millions of tracks that I have, or I have, 100 records. Like there's something really beautiful about that. And I think,
absolutely.
When you talk about even, we were just like looking at the album cover, and how amazing. Most people don't do that anymore. I was going to ask you, just to start off, if you want to talk about what are your favorite album covers, not from just your shit. You can include some of your shit that's been in there, but first let's start with you. What's your favorite album cover from any of the bands that you've performed on?
Well, I've been real fortunate to work with some legendary guys. I mean, Dream Theater's been working with Hugh Syme for decades now, and Hugh did every Rush album, and he's done so many classic legendary albums through the years. So we have a great relationship with Hugh Syme, but we were also fortunate in the 90s to work with Storm Thurgeson, who did all the Pink Floyd covers and Led Zeppelin covers. And actually, in the other room, I have hanging in my wall, on one of the walls in the other room, a hand-drawn artwork for the cover that Storm Thurgeson did. He did our album called Falling Into Infinity. And he hand-drew all of these covers as submitted as possible covers. And I have in the other room, it's the hand-drawn cover for Falling Into Infinity, and then a hand-drawn cover that he also submitted as another possibility. We passed on the other one, and Pink Floyd ended up using it a few years later for a greatest hits package. So I have the original hand-drawn cover that Pink Floyd ended up using as well. So I would have to say, it's Storm Thurgeson did not do my favorite Dream Theater cover, but the fact that I had a chance to work with him and
it's awesome.
It was amazing, because he did all, he did Wish You Were Here and The Wall. Well, actually, he didn't do The Wall, but he did Dark Side of the Moon and Animals and Atom Heart Mother, all the classic Floyd albums. He did the Zeppelin albums, and he's just an absolute legend. So
I see it. I see it. So you're saying Falling Into Infinity, he did the album cover. He's done the album. That's the guy that did the album covers for Pink Floyd, because I see it. I see that like momentary lapse of reason type thing. You know what I mean? With all the beds,
Right.
it just even the way it looks like a Pink Floyd album cover. It's really rad.
Yeah, totally.
That's so cool to have that style. Who are you? So would you say that he's the guy that's done, like, if you had to say, you know, this is my favorite album cover of all time, doesn't have to be Dream Theater, doesn't have to be yours. What are you picking? What are you?
Honestly, all honesty, this is definitely up there. This is one of them. I think this album cover is insane, and it, like I showed before, it's a gatefold, so it's really double. You know, you get really.
That's fucking.
And this guy, what was his name? Like you said, Alan Aldridge. He did, at the time when this came out in the mid 70s. I had these 2 Beatles illustrated lyrics books that he did, and he illustrated. He did most of the illustrations. There was a few different artists that were a part of this book, but this Beatles illustrated lyrics books were incredible. And as a kid, I would just sit there and read the lyrics and look at these images. He did different images for every song in the Beatles catalog. And those were 2 of my favorite books when I was a kid in the 70s. So when this came out, it's like, oh, I totally recognized the style. I mean, this was, but yeah, this has so much detail. I mean, and everything, even down beyond just the artwork itself. I love the way that Captain Fantastic has its own logo. This little thing like a comic book from the edge of the earth to your town, which is from the lyrics. You have Bernie Taupin on the back cover. So honestly, this would have to be one of my favorite album covers of all time. It's definitely up there.
It really is beautiful. I just lost the thing that I just fucking had up. Let me pull this up because I want to make sure I get all this stuff out. How much do you know about this record and kind of where Elton's at? You know, because I'm not going to lie. Like, I have everything written down. And I mean, I'm about as much of an Elton historian, you know, I'm not going to say as anybody, but I went through the run through with my writer. But do you, because I can talk or you can talk. Do you know kind of where he's at in his career? And,
oh, yeah.
So why don't you kind of give us a little of what you know about this, and then I'll fill in the details of what we have under Album Essentials.
All right. Well, truth be told, full disclosure, my favorite Elton album of all time is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which was 2 years before this in 73.
Yeah.
And that Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is in my top 5 of all time, of all records of all time. So that's a big one for me. So
wait, what's beating that? What's beating that? Like, what are your?
My top 5. My top 5 is Sgt. Pepper.
Yep.
Tommy, The Who's Tommy, Pink Floyd's The Wall, Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That's my top 5 of classics. I also have a top 5 of modern albums as well, but that's my top 5 of
the classics.
The classics, yeah.
Sure. That's, it's so cool. It's like when I went to my first day of film school and they went through everybody's favorite movie and everybody's like, dude, The Godfather and this. Like, you're the purist. You're like, you know what I mean? You're going with, they're great records. So I'm not like saying that they're not, but it's like you recognize that they are the great, and it's like, and they deserve to be up there.
They do.
Like, people would ask me, and I'd be like, "Mine's Babe." I love the movie about the talking pig. That's my favorite movie of all time.
Well, what would be your top 5 of all time?
I mean, we just did one of them, which is Radiohead, OK Computer, because that's
in my top 5 of modern albums. Absolutely.
Because that was like, I would say, and I've said this a million times, I'd say Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. And this one is just a wild card because it just changed my life, which was Stone Temple Pilots Core, because I was one way and then I heard Scott's voice and I was like, I'm going to do that. So it's not even so much that it's the greatest record in what I would call like what music critics at all, because music critics hated Stone Temple Pilots, but it was just such a big record for me where I listened to it. And I don't really listen to it that often anymore. But it was like, man, the obsession, like Wu-Tang Enter the 36 Chambers, like Jeremiah with me and our friends. That was it for like 2 years. We were obsessed with that record. And, but I mean, then
those are good.
I love these. They're all,
let me give you my modern 5, because it's probably more interesting. My modern 5 is OK Computer, Radiohead, like you said, Jellyfish Spilt Milk, which is one of the greatest albums ever made, just like sonically.
Dude,
like a modern day Sergeant Pepper.
so many people I know that I respect musically say that. So you're not the
Yeah.
first. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique,
Fuck yeah.
which is the Sergeant Pepper of hip hop.
Yes.
The first Mr. Bungle album, Mike Patton and Mr. Bungle, which is like a progressive avant-garde masterpiece. And then a little different from everything else is Muse's Absolution. I love Absolution by Muse.
Such a great record.
Yeah, just top to
I
bottom.
love
Classic.
I do. Oh, dude, Mike, we're so right here. I gotta ask because, and I know this. We'll get to some of these questions later because I am gonna ask you some stuff about your career as well. But it's like, did you talk to Dave about kind of jumping in and starting to play drums? Did you actually maybe say, "Hey, man, maybe I could play drums in Mr. Bungle" when they were doing the return at, what was it, the Revenge of the Easter Bunny tour?
Yeah.
Like, I could see you doing that.
Oh God, I would have. I mean, to play with those guys would be a dream. I was so psyched when I heard that Dave and Scott Ian were brought into the band for that. And I texted both of those guys immediately, like, guys, you're playing with like one of my favorite bands of all time. What a freaking honor! I couldn't wait to see them live with that lineup, and I've seen them many times now with that lineup. But I saw the OG Bungle lineup in the '90s.
Yeah.
They are just so insane, incredible.
Yeah.
Band.
Dude, I love it. All right. I didn't mean to cut you off. I go on, tangents. I always find it interesting to find out, especially for someone like you. It's like I gotta know your favorites. All right. So where were we? Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I know you want to take it, or we can.
Sure. Yellow Brick Road came out in '73. To me, that's his masterpiece, double album. But then he put out Caribou in '74, and then this came out, Captain Fantastic, in '75. I would consider Captain Fantastic his second greatest album. It's my second favorite of his. And as far as where he was at this time, you got to realize he was massive. Around the same time in '75 is when he was in Tommy doing Pinball Wizard. He played the Pinball Wizard in Tommy and also was on the soundtrack with his version of the song. So that was around the same time. Also, his song with John Lennon, Whatever Gets You Through the Night. John Lennon's Walls and Bridges album came out around the same time. So he had a big hit with that. And John Lennon's last live appearance ever was playing with Elton. I think it might have been that same year, '75. So '75 was a big, big year for Elton. And Captain Fantastic comes out. It's a concept album about his and Bernie Taupin's early career before they were successful and the struggles they went through in the late '60s. Another interesting thing about it, it was written in chronological order. So the sequence you're getting with this album is the order that they wrote the songs, which is, I mean, I've made almost 100 albums in my life at this point. I don't recall ever doing that. That's a very unique thing to do.
Why do you think they did that?
I don't know. I mean, they'd have to answer, but I guess maybe when Elton was writing the music, he felt a flow, or maybe maybe it was because when Bernie wrote the lyrics, which is also within itself an unusual thing, the fact that Elton didn't write his own lyrics and had an outside lyricist. Some bands like King Crimson or Procol Harum, they had that. They had an outside lyricist, but it was more common back then than now. But still, the fact that like Elton didn't write the lyrics to Candle in the Wind or didn't write the lyrics to, Benny and the Jets, it's a weird thing to think about. He would just write the music and then Bernie would write the lyrics. So maybe in answer to the question about why was it chronological, maybe Bernie just felt it told the story in the order that he wrote it. And I don't know, but I suppose there's some further answers out there about it.
It could be, Mike, it could be, because like going through what the songs are about, maybe it was like he was handing them as he wrote the song. He handed that one to him, and he's like, "This is what I'm thinking about first." Because what is it? Let me pull up. I want to go by tracks too, But it comes with the partnership. Then you have the story of the music industry and blah blah. It's just maybe that was the way he was laying it out. Which is so fascinating too, because there's some of this stuff that is like, that is so personal to Elton that Bernie nails.
Right.
It really is impressive.
Bernie had to write from Elton's point of view in a lot of, like, he wrote Someone Saved My Life Tonight. He wrote the lyrics about a relationship that Elton was in. So he had to, he had to know Elton's situations and personal, scenarios that he's going through in his life to write from his perspective, and for Elton to deliver these lyrics as if they're his own. Bernie has to nail it. But
Yeah.
it's so unusual to have an outside writer like this that is so much a part of all of these hits. And it was throughout Elton's entire career. This band, and another thing that of note is that this was the last album with this band,
Yeah.
which was Elton's classic early 70s band with Nigel Olsson on drums, Davy Johnston on guitar, Dee Murray on bass. I mean, this was a classic lineup that made Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and all these classic albums. And this was the last one of this lineup. You could see him here in the inside of the booklet.
Yeah, dude, you nailed everything that I had, every single thing. And also another big factor.
I can't tell which direction I'm going.
No, we got you, dude.
Oh, there we go.
Pick a direction.
But yeah, this was a classic lineup. So you're hearing his band. It was more than just Elton and Bernie. This was a real band at this point. After this, I think Elton started working with different studio musicians, but this was the last time that it was a real band making an album together. And the story goes, I know this from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Dee and Davy and Nigel, the three other guys in the band, would do all the background vocals. And the story, legend has it, like they would, when they were making Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, they would lay down the music in the day. Then Elton would go home and fuck off. And the three of them would stay late night in the studio creating all the background vocals and harmonies, and made this wall of harmonies that you hear on all these old classic songs. So that the band was really critical to Elton's sound at this period in the mid 70s.
Why do you think, and I mean, I don't know if you know this, and maybe Jared, you might have to look this up, but why did he not work with them after this? Do you know? Or
Davy Johnson stayed with him for a while on guitar. He stayed with him, but the main thing was that he fired Nigel and Dee, the rhythm section, both of whom had been with him on like those great early albums, Madman Across the Water and Hunky Chateau. And I don't know why. Who knows? Yeah.
This was also the first album to debut at #1.
Wow.
It's the first time an album did that. It stayed in that position for 7 weeks. He was so hot at the time that the advance orders for the album were over 1 million. So he really was like this is
massive.
Yeah, he was massive. And I know we have like massive stars now, but it just feels a lot purer about these guys in the 70s. And
even the massive stars now have been doing it for 30 years to get to the level they're at. Guns N' Roses were huge coming out of the gates. Metallica were huge after a few years, but they weren't playing stadiums until 20 years in, whereas Elton is playing stadiums. There's that famous footage of him playing Dodger Stadium dressed in the sequence like Dodger uniform. I mean, he was doing stadiums, and there were other bands doing stadiums too. Crosby, Stills, and Nash were playing stadiums, in the early 70s. And
so odd.
It's so odd. The Eagles and Bowie. It was a different era. You don't get musicians like that now in 2025. And like I said, the ones that are playing stadiums today, like Guns N' Roses and Metallica, they're 40 years in at this point.
Yeah. I wonder if we missed anything, because you literally nailed everything that I had gone over with my buddy Morty, because I go through these like powwows to like get me like tuned in, because there's so much stuff that like we don't want to miss. So let's talk about some of the songs. Let's dive into some of the songs, and please, like I have only some facts, and you tell me what you like, you tell me what you don't like.
Right.
This was my first time listening to this record all the way through. I listened to it about a year ago because I was getting bored. So I went deep down into the list, and I was like, let me take a look at this. The only song that is a single, or is probably one of his hits, and probably one of his, I mean, it's one of the best songs I think he's ever written, is Somebody Saved My Life Tonight. I mean, that is like
absolute
phenomenal.
Masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece, and we'll get to that. So it opens with Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. The song's about Elton John, characterized as Captain Fantastic, and his songwriting partner, Bernie Taupin, who is the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Interestingly, John and Bernie said that they grew into these roles over the years, unintentionally becoming the characters that Bernie wrote about them in this song. Thoughts on it? What do you like? What do you dislike? You tell me.
It's a great opener. It's a little measured though. It comes in kind of slow, almost feels like a country song when it starts off, like a slide guitar kind of sound, and but then it eventually starts to rock, and it's a bit of a rocker. I look at these albums. I still look at albums from the '70s in terms of side A and side B, and
Yeah.
back in those days, you were able to have, now you have to have an album opener and album closer. Back then, you were able to have two album openers, two album closers, because you could have one on each side. So this was the album opener for side A, more of a rocker, and kind of just setting the tone for telling the story of these two guys. Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. It's like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's these two guys that are in the wild, wild west of rock and roll music, and trying to make a living out of it. But I think it's a good tune. Nothing special, it's not my favorite track on the album, but I think it's a good way to start it.
It is a good way to start it. It's also, like you said, it's about their partnership of how they came together. And you've had so many projects. Most people know you from Dream Theater. Who is your Bernie? Who's your collaborator? Like, who do you look for? Like, what do you look for in a collaborator?
I'd say I've had two big ones in my career. One within all of my years within Dream Theater, and then one outside all of my years at Dream Theater. I would say within Dream Theater, my partner in crime is definitely John Petrucci, the guitar player in Dream Theater. He and I, formed the band along with our bass player back when we were teenagers in the '80s, back at Berklee College of Music, and here we are 40 years later. So John Petrucci and myself are definitely the partnership in the band. We're kind of the James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich of Dream Theater. Similar, that guitar drum relationship, similar also to like Dimebag and Vinnie Paul, or Eddie and Alex Van Halen. I think John and I have a very similar guitar drum relationship. And also all throughout the 2000s, we co-produced all the Dream Theater albums. So we made all those creative decisions together as co-producers. So within Dream Theater, I would say that's the strongest partnership I've ever had. Outside of Dream Theater, I left the band for 13 years. And over those 13 years, I made 40 or 50 different albums with different bands and projects. And most of them were with Neil Morse. And Neil Morse kind of became my partner in crime, more of like a Lennon McCartney duo, in the prog universe. All the bands that Neil and I formed together, which were Transatlantic, Flying Colors, Neil Morse Band, we were in multiple bands together, and we're kind of partners in crime in all those bands as well. So I've been fortunate to have some really great musical partners throughout, the last 40 years.
What do you look for? Like, what makes these guys so special? Like, what do you connect with? Or is it just you're both like, always like one of those things where you're like, oh my God, like you're just inside my head? Or
right. Well, with John Petrucci, I mean, the music we make in Dream Theater, we were kind of the gatekeepers of the band for so many years, having formed it when we were teenagers and going for decades together. We were very protective over, what the band should sound like and what the band should do, the music we should make, how it should be perceived and unveiled. So he and I had very similar mindsets in terms of how we ran Dream Theater and how we protected it, the brand. With Neil Morse, it's more of a musical relationship. He's just one of the most prolific artists I've ever met. He'll literally wake up every day with a new song in his head. Sometimes it could be a 15-20 minute epic that he just wrote in his sleep the night before. So he's a songwriting machine. So he and I really click on that level in terms of being able to tap into his incredible proficiency as a songwriter. And then also we're big music fans. We love the Beatles. We love Yes. We love all the prog bands and the 60s bands, So we were able to kind of put together different bands and just collaborate on a really adventurous level. Just love for music.
Is there a song that you would say is your best? This shows our where we, when we form like Voltron, it's on this.
Right. Oh, I mean, the music I make is with the bands I'm a part of is epic. It's long shit. It's like really? 20 minute songs with a million parts and a million time signatures. So those big epics are the ones that kind of cover a lot of ground. there's a lot of simple songs in my catalog as well, but to me, usually those are just trying to go in one direction. I think the big epic tunes, if you look at Dream Theater's epic songs like Octavarium or Change of Seasons or the latest album we just put out, we have a song, a 20-minute song that's, an epic. So those are the ones that I think that have the most, in them, the most bang for the buck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is there a better partnership? Like, who are the greatest partnerships, you would say?
Lennon and McCartney.
Lennon McCartney, obviously. Yeah. Let me finish. I was about to say that. Lennon and McCartney. Bernie, Elton.
Page and Plant. Page and Plant. Nick and Keith. Roger and Pete.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of a funny one.
A great one that ended up, ending with so much animosity would be Roger Waters and David Gilmour. Although Roger would tell you, and Roger really ran the ship on his own all those years, but you had David sing, you have Gilmour's voice and his incredible guitar playing on all those albums, which balanced it out.
Yeah. It's so funny because it's like Roger just takes so much credit but it's like you can't listen to his music without hearing the David Gilmour portions, whether it's his voice or it's that incredible guitar solo sound. It's like, it's just a bummer that one fell apart. And it's like, the fact that, we even got what we did out of him, knowing, just how they both are.
Right.
One of the best and most boring, not boring, but David Gilmour blew me away. I just saw him in Madison Square Garden 3 times, and it's like it was the most low energy show. He did not play the hits. He gave you enough, but I really feel like he was doing it all for himself, which I kind of respected. But then you go to see Roger Waters, and it's just like, fuck it. Shit flying at you.
Well, that shows you the difference in their partnership, the yin and yang of it. Roger was always the big concept guy. He was the guy that had the flying pigs and the wall that gets built up and knocked down, and Dark Side of the Moon. It was all his vision. He had that creative vision, and he was the big concept guy, whereas Gilmour was the voice and the melody in the band.
Yeah.
And I'm a Roger guy. When push comes to shove, if I have to pick one or the other, but honestly, both of them are at their best with each other. Nothing could beat those big 4 albums from the 70s. Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and The Wall. I mean, those 4 are just the 4 of the greatest albums of all time. So, and they couldn't have been made without both of those guys.
All right, Tower of
Babel.
Babel.
Like Babylon almost.
Did I say? Oh no!
It could be Babel, because actually, when thinking about the song, he's singing about Cain and Abel, I think, or something like that. Or so maybe it's Babel or Babel. I'm not sure, but
yeah, it's a story of the music industry, the pitfalls, the successes. Morty, because we're all Jewish. He wanted me to say recognizing the chutzpah at trying to reach God. The chutzpah, realizing that mishpacha genettigezoink.
I guess it is the Tower of Babel. I guess that's actually how it's pronounced, because I mean, at least in the context of the lyrics, it is. But I don't know. Who the hell knows?
I really like this song. I really liked this. I love any story. I love the story of excess. I love the story of debauchery. I love all of that. You know what I mean? I think that's why. Oh no, I just set off my. I'm not going to say her name, my Alexa, by saying what excess. Yeah, I mean, thoughts on the song? What do you love? What do you dislike? I mean, it's a great song.
The thing about this album, there's the ones and then there's the ones you don't know, and there's a handful of tracks on this album that are kind of underrated classics. This is one of them. This and the couple that follow are more under the radar kind of songs, deeper album cuts that he wouldn't ever really play normally out of the context of this album. But this is a great one. When he did play this album in its entirety about 20 years ago, and for some reason left this one off the set list.
Really?
This and the Songwriting on side 2, he left off the 2005 live version, which is a weird choice. I don't know why, because this actually happens to be one of my favorite of the deeper cuts. You know,
it doesn't make sense why he would leave this off. That's pretty interesting. Now you started in the '80s, and like we talked about earlier, I love GNR. You know, what was your road to excess like? You know, do you have tales of debauchery like? You know,
I do personally, but I mean, I made my career in Dream Theater, which is, arguably the most boring band in metal. Personally, that is, it's just a bunch of musicians, and our
yeah.
audience are the same. So we're not exactly the Motley Crue of Prague. We made our career out of writing these prog songs that were tailor-made for musicians in the vein of a band like Rush or Yes or whatever like that. So honestly, the debauchery came from me personally, because I'm an alcoholic, an addict. I had to go through many years of recovery to get back on track. So personally, I was the guy in the band that would always hang out with the opening band or the crew guys and have fun with those guys. And then when I got sober in the early 2000s, the band was very, very helpful and supportive of that. But there wasn't too much debauchery. It was just,
I get it.
yeah, we're not Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue. We're the Rush of this era and generation.
Now I got to ask, and you don't have to talk about it at all, but was it, there's always this, because I'm an addict, and there was that moment, that first set back sober, clear-headed, compared to being on stage on Percocets and opiates and stuff, which made me feel invincible and made me do this. Was it a hard, were you nervous? I mean, obviously there's no way you can't be, but it's like, but really I don't want to put words in your head, because with music, it's like, the music, it's like you practice it, you do this. With stand-up comedy, it's way different, because you have to connect with the audience, and you could say something, they might not like the way you look. Like, was there like a moment of like, all right, here we go, or I hope this goes well?
Well, when I first got sober, yeah, it was a huge adjustment. I had never done anything sober at that point, because I'd been drinking since I was a preteen. So, at that point when I got sober at 33, I had never had a conversation at a party sober. I had never, been in the recording studio sober. I'd never been on stage sober, So, it was a huge adjustment at first, but actually then I found, once I got over that hump, that I was clearer and cleaner and better and sharper than ever before. So, that fear then suddenly turned into
Excitement.
yeah, and courage. It was suddenly confident about it. But yeah, before I got sober, like my years drinking on the road was like, at first I would I wouldn't drink until after the show. Then it became, okay, well, I'll only drink before the encore. Then it became, all right, I'm only going to drink during the guitar solo in the middle of the show. Then it was like, all right, well, I'm only going to drink right before the show. Next thing you knew, you're getting wasted before the opening band. It was just, everything was progressive at that point.
It's crazy. It's crazy that what we try to do as addicts to like
justify everything.
It's fine. I just had that experience with smoking cigarettes, because I don't drink, I don't do coke, I don't take pills. I smoke grass at the end of the night every once in a while. I don't even like it. It's more just when my anxiety's going crazy, just to bring me down. But I'm not an addict at all with it. But nicotine, I quit vaping when I was on tour because of my voice, and I started smoking spliffs. And just like you said, I'm only going to smoke a spliff after the show. And then because of the nicotine in it, it was like, all right, well and then I started putting less and less weed. And next thing you know, I'm just smoking cigarettes.
Right.
And I was like, I'm only going to smoke when I walk the dog. All right, I'm only going to do. And then next thing you know, I'm waking up and I'm smoking a cigarette. So
exactly.
It's crazy, dude. Do you think Elton's music, because he was using during this time, right?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, he famously got sober, a long time ago. So, but I think, it's pretty well known that he was pretty excessive in the 70s at the height of his fame in the 70s. And, there's stories of him and John Lennon and their lost weekends and things like that. So, yeah, I'm not sure when he got sober, but I know he went through his tough period as well in the 70s.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, his music suffered at all. But I mean, is his music and you're more of a fan, you might know, is music in the 80s as good as the music in the 70s, or is that set? I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
anybody for that was around in the 60s and 70s, their music was as good in the 80s. None.
Yeah, but yeah,
You
yeah.
name any band, and I think their best music was in the 60s and the
Yeah,
70s,
it was a
60s and
stupid
70s.
question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm such an idiot. I feel like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Boogie Nights. I'm
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Which, by the way, talking about lists, that's my number one film of all time.
Oh,
nice.
bro, one of the greatest movies ever
Yeah.
made. Like, we
Yeah,
saw it
absolutely.
opening night in Washington, D.C. Paul Thomas Anderson,
Yeah.
he made the Ben-Hur
Yeah.
of the
And
porn industry.
his next one too, Magnolia. Magnolia and
Love
Boogie
that.
Nights are the top of my all-time favorite list.
Really?
Big
Really?
time.
Those are your you know what? And I talk about this a lot, and I just talked about it in the last episode. You know what movie fucking rule? Well, all right. I'm going way off topic, but I've just recently put this as my favorite movie ever. Aliens.
Oh, wow.
Aliens
Yeah,
with the
Cameron.
S.
James
It
Cameron.
because you got to judge your favorite movie and record as a record or a movie I can listen to any moment of the day in any mood, and I
Yeah.
can watch it. And dude, I loved Aliens. It was in my top 20.
I
And
haven't seen
recently,
it in decades. It's been a while.
Portnoy,
I'll revisit it.
I'm telling you,
I have the Blu-ray box of them all, and I know Ridley Scott did the first, Fincher did the third, but the
the third.
Cameron one is this.
But those,
Second
dude,
is the
but that's
classic.
the biggest bag drop of all time, where the executives in control at 20th Century Fox that made Alien, which is a perfect horror slasher movie, got James Cameron to do part 2, which is arguably one of the greatest action adventure movies of all time. It's so quotable. When she comes out at the end in the big machine and says, "Get away from me, you bitch," I get like chills. I almost choke up because I love it that much. And then they fucked it up so bad with Alien 3
And that was
which we'll
David
get to.
Fincher, who's Fincher's
But
mastermind.
but who's a brilliant director, but that's not his movie.
Yeah.
That's the executive's movie,
Right.
which we're going to get to in another question where we talk about notes from executives and shit. So let's because I mean we're supposed to be talking about Elton John and we're talking about Boogie Nights and Aliens. Like, there's a guy in his basement right now, like, talk about fucking Bitter Fingers, you fucking
Right,
moose.
totally.
All right, Bitter Fingers. Record companies say, oh my God. What a perfect segue. We're talking about Alien 3. The record company saying they need to write songs for other people and them saying they don't want to. That's basically what I got from this. And I think that's what Morty had told me what it's about. Thoughts on Bitter Fingers? Or you want to add to that? Or what do you think?
To me, it's part of the middle of side one, which is a lot of this album. It reminds me of around that time. This is the same year that Queen made A Night at the Opera, and bands like Queen or Elton with this album. Every song is kind of capturing a different thing. One could be a country song. One could be like this song with the tack piano. Kind of reminds me of like a ragtime kind of. I don't know. It's albums like this and Night at the Opera, or even the White Album for that matter, are mixing genres and genre hopping from song to song. So to me, Bitter Fingers is just another kind of deep album cut. Not one of my favorites on the album. I love, if you want to talk about it like from a musical standpoint, I love that the verses are in a triplet feel, but then it goes to the chorus, eighth note feel. So if you're a musician, that's a pretty cool aspect, that it's constantly shifting between triplets and sixteenths, which is a cool thing. But other than that, to me, it's one of the throwaways on this album. It's not one of my favorites. This same with the next track as well. Tell me when the whistle blows is the next one, and it's another one that's kind of in that vein for me.
So I'll make this. So we sum both those up, but I have two questions I really want to ask you because, just like Neil from Rush, they have their signature things. You have the Mike Portnoy drum fill, and being that this song is about them not wanting to write stuff for other people. What is that like seeing people cover Dream Theater and try to cover your shit? What was the first time seeing someone cover one of your songs? Do you remember it?
It was our breakthrough album happened in '92, Images and Words, and we had a song called Pull Me Under. And it was around then that we started to, get some popularity and notoriety. It was around then that we used to start to see Dream Theater cover bands as well. So it's the early to mid 90s. I think the first one I saw was a Japanese Dream Theater cover band called Lifting Shadows. It was like the mid 90s. And then also I got a video of from a band from Australia doing all Dream Theater covers. And the drummer at that time in this Dream Theater cover band was a drummer named Virgil Donati. Virgil went on to become a very, very famous drummer in his own right, playing with Steve Vai and such. But he started, well, at least the first way I heard of him was in this Dream Theater cover band. But yeah, to me, that's what a compliment. What the ultimate compliment when you have people that love your music that much that want to cover it. Mm-hmm. And as far as my style goes, yeah, there's the Portnoy fill, which is now almost like it's become kind of something that I have to joke about at this point. It's become such a cliche of my style that it's, it's just it's just become my thing for lack of a better word. But when you see what you do reaching other musicians, it's the ultimate compliment. Really,
it really is.
And like you said, I'm not a household name. People that you've probably had on the show are more household names, more commercial. But the thing with Dream Theater fans, they're so freaking fanatical and devoted.
Love it.
Our fan base have gave us this career that we're able to have kind of under the radar of popular music. Rolling Stone magazine, I never acknowledged us. MTV barely acknowledged us in the 90s. We kind of made our career off of touring relentlessly for 40 years, at this point. And but anyway, as far as Bitter Fingers and a label trying to change you and stuff like that, we had an album that we made. It was the one that Storm Thurgeson did the cover for, that you pulled up earlier, Falling Into Infinity. That album was made under tremendous pressure from the label, and they kind of held us at bay for a couple of years making that record, refusing to give us the green light until we delivered some singles to them. So that was a really, really painful experience that was so frustrating to the point where I was ready to walk out and quit because it was so frustrating. And then we ultimately threw down the gauntlet and had our manager say, "Get the fuck out of the way or else the band's breaking up." And then we ended up making a record, Scenes from a Memory, which pretty much revitalized and reinvigorated us and the fan base. So if Bitter Fingers is about falling prey to the pressures of record company pressures, I mean, I wrote about it on that Falling Into Infinity album. A song called Burning My Soul is all about that. Just Let Me Breathe on the same album is about that. So I wrote a lot of lyrics during that period about those kind of frustrations, so I could relate to that subject matter.
Good. And then because we'll just skip over when Tell Me When the Whistle Blows, but it is about touring. One of my favorite things to ask comics is your worst gig. Like, do you like touring? I'm assuming you do, because the fans are so diehard, and it's got to be so exhilarating to go out there and play your music. I mean, it's palpable, like just inside of you, and your drums and the guitars and the shredding. It's like, I mean, I'm not saying you are Iron Maiden, but I've gone to see Iron Maiden so many times, and the best parts of the shows are when the three guitarists are just cutting up and the drummer's going off. So I guess stupid question: do you like touring? And then also, what's your worst concert or touring experience? Or do you have one?
Well, I love touring. I love the fans. There's nothing more exciting than those 3 hours on stage that we play. And, and our fans make it possible for us to play places like Wembley Stadium or Radio City Music Hall and sell out these mammoth places without radio play. So thank God for these amazing fans. But I've had had my share of Spinal Tap moments, that's for sure. I remember we were playing a gig in Munich, Germany in the late 90s. And it was the end of the show, last song of the main set. And I guess I just bit off more than I could chew with the drum fill. I just thought I was going to pull off this invincible fill of 128th note, and all of a sudden I felt this cramp in my right arm. And I thought it was just a cramp. I looked down and the palm of my hand is facing upwards.
Oh my God.
I literally dislocated my wrist from just, I don't know, biting off more than I could chew with this drum fill. And my hand was facing upwards. So my drum tech literally had to bang my wrist into place, come up behind the drums with a bucket of ice. I had to put it in the bucket of ice, finish the show, Rick
went
Allen
Def Leppard.
style.
You went Def
Yeah,
Leppard style.
exactly. And then rushed right to the hospital and had to do the rest of the tour in a brace. But yeah,
Holy
that was
shit.
probably one of the worst experiences. And I had another experience like that in the mid '90s in Toronto, where my back cramped up during the show,
Oof.
and we had to stop the show because I was stuck. I couldn't move, and we had to see if there was any chiropractors in the audience, and had to pull them out of the audience to come work on me backstage for 15 minutes while the
dude,
show
but
was interrupted.
how rad is that to be the
Yeah.
chiropractor that's a huge, because dude, like you said, your fans are fans. They aren't just like, yeah, I'm going to it. Like I'm like I like your music. I'll definitely go to a show. I would love to see you guys live. But it's like you said, dude, the people that like Dream Theater fucking love it. It's like the people that love Cannibal Corpse fucking love it. And Rush, same thing. All the bands you can think of where the musicians are incredible. And so to be that chiropractor,
yeah,
he's been waiting his whole moment to crack your back, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane. I do you stay in touch with him ever? You know, never seen him again.
Honestly, I never saw him again. I don't think I had to have root canal done in Greece once, emergency root canal, and luckily we found a dentist that was a fan and was able to get me in and meet me and it did all the root canal for free and everything. All he wanted was backstage passes to come to the show, and of course we took care of that. But yeah, so when you're on the road, you come across these people that can sometimes be very helpful fans, you know.
Dude, did the root canal guy go, so why don't you tell me about what were you thinking while you did Imogen Words?
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on, spit real quick. Okay, yeah.
I was having visions of Dustin Hoffman in Marathon Man, you know.
Yeah,
this guy has these wheels, or a Clockwork Orange with my eyes, you know, peeled open.
Yeah.
In the hands of a fan.
A Jew and a German.
No, he was Greece. He was in
Greece.
Thank God. Athens. Yeah. Greek dentist.
Hello. Hey. Soon eating, he tried to feed you. He's like, no, please eat. All right, let's get to the chunky song.
I'll talk about the next song, because the next song for me is the crown jewel of this album.
This is why I think the album's on the list. Because, by the way, this record, we always go over this at the end. This record did not survive the 2020 re-rank. This is
really?
Yeah, it did not. This did not make it on the cut. Someone Saved My Life Tonight might be my favorite Elton John song, and it's only recently that it got bumped up to that top thing. I mean, just the words, the way that he's like, you know, damn it. Like, I love those, like, I'm not smart enough to describe the feeling that I get while listening to this song, but it really is, it's just perfect. Thoughts? Absolutely. What do you want to add?
Absolute masterpiece. One of the greatest songs Elton and Bernie ever wrote. The thing about Elton's writing, man, I just love his sense of melody and chord progressions. He writes these songs with these incredible progressions. You know, you listen to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road or Funeral for a Friend. You know, the key changes and the melodies and the progressions. And this song is a perfect example of that. The ascending chromatic progression. Like, if you analyze the song structure to this, the chord progressions is constantly ascending chromatically, building. And it's just a perfectly written song. Really and is. I gotta give a lot of props, not only on this song, but there's several on this album. The drummer, Nigel Olsson, one of the most underrated rock drummers of the 70s, the most tasteful drummer. And he always plays the perfect thing for the song and finds the perfect place to enter. This song is a great example. The whole first half of the song, he's just playing time on the cymbals. The first verse, first chorus, second verse. He doesn't enter till the B section of the second verse. The drums don't even come in with a groove till halfway through the second verse, which is such an unorthodox place to enter. You know, if I was playing this song, I may have entered on the first chorus or whatever. But he comes in halfway through the second verse. Like, who the fuck does that? And he does it. He does this later on in the album as well. The song that closes the album, Curtains, same thing. But he had this incredible knack for when to enter a song, and is such a tasty drummer. And
Tasty. I love that.
this song also, once again, I'm bringing up Dream Theater's Falling Into Infinity album. We talked about the album artwork. We talked about the compromises with the label with that album. But also on that album is a song called Anna Lee, or as some of us like to call Anally. But it was ripped off specifically from Someone Saved My Life Tonight. The beginning, boom, da 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 da. It was a direct rip off, and Elton John was a big influence on Derek Sherinian, our keyboard player, during that period of the band. And this song was definitely a blatant homage.
Love it.
Anna Lee was a blatant homage to Someone Saved My Life.
I love it. I love it. So the story, Jeremiah, if you don't know this, the song deals with a time in Elton's life when he was going to get married to a woman named Linda Woodrow.
A woman, mind you.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is it's he was gay, and I think he was already pretty much out, or was he? Was he out to the world, or
not sure?
Probably to his friends for sure, because they were like,
yeah.
what are you doing? You like dick? You like dick and butt, dude. You don't like vagina and titties. Yeah, dude. And I love it. I love how Adam, the guy that collects the notes, goes, he was gay, so that would have been a big mistake. In 91, Elton explained, I was going to get married once when I was younger, and I went out and got drunk with Long John Baldry. Who is he? I think
Googling
I'm
him.
going to fuck. No, I think he was the manager of Queen that screwed them over. Morty said that he kept bringing up that guy's name when we were talking.
Maybe that's the guy that Death on Two Legs was written about, probably.
Yes. And Bernie and John said I shouldn't get married. I knew he was right, but I didn't know how to get out of it. So I got drunk and went home and said, I'm not getting married, Sugar Bear. And the lyrics refers to Long John Baldry, who recalls, apparently I gave Elton some very good advice when he was in a pickle, and he wrote a song about it, but I still can't figure out what the song is about. Linda was devastated, it says. Also, he tried to kill himself. That's another thing too. But it was like really showmany. Like it wasn't like he put his head in the oven, but he left the windows open. Like I just remember hearing Morty say a bunch of stuff about that. So yeah, that is, despite the epiphany in the song, the first time Elton got married, he wasn't it was to a woman. So he did get married.
Same with Bowie. David Bowie married Angie Bowie back in the 70s, and Freddie Mercury also was I think married or had a long-time girlfriend back then. So I guess that was the thing. If you were gay, if you weren't out of the closet yet, or maybe bisexual, but both Elton, Bowie, and Freddie Mercury, all three of them are examples that had that situation.
It's called a mustache, right? Sort of presented to the world.
Beard. It's a beard. It's a beard. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, dude, I'm not going to name names, but there's comedians that we know. Well, no, I think do we talk about it? And maybe we should cut this part. But like with Swarty, like he's gay and he talks about it and on stage, but he's like, he still gets weird because it's like straight fans get like, and it's still just mind blowing. Now in the 70s, way different than now. Totally. But yeah, dude, this might be, I don't know. This might be, here's a good question. This is a really good question I should ask you. So he got the advice from Big John. Is there a moment or a certain type of state of mind, whatever you were in, where you got, what's the best advice that you ever got, Mike?
Well, I think it wasn't advice I got, but I think Rush went through a similar situation that Dream Theater went through before after Caress of Steel, they almost broke up because of the industry pressures. And then they told them to fuck off and they made 2112 and they were revitalized. It wasn't direct advice, but it was a good leading by example for Dream Theater. When we went through this falling into infinity period and almost broke up and were being controlled by the label, we kind of took that Rush example and told everybody to fuck off, let us make the record we want to make. And we ended up making Scenes from Memory, which ended up becoming probably one of our biggest records. So I think that was a good lesson that we learned about sticking to your guns and really, follow your heart and don't be pushed around by the powers that be in this crazy industry.
Totally. I just to add on to that, because I think it's very connected to one of the facts that Adam wrote here about the fact that it was 6 minutes and 45 seconds long. The track was
And it was
twice
the
as long.
only single on the album. Yeah.
Twice as long as a typical single at that time. But John refused to let it be edited down.
But it was a little different back then. Look at some of the other hits from around 75. You had Bohemian Rhapsody, which was the longest song on that album.
Good point.
You had Carry On Wayward Son. You had, Boston had like Long Time, and, so there were bands that were pushing the envelope and were getting away with longer singles back then. Look at like if you see a list of the top 10 greatest radio tracks of all time, you'll see Layla, Freebird, Stairway to Heaven. You're going to get all the big long songs, Hey Jude. So, certain artists with balls would put out these long songs as singles and get away with it.
The artists just have to fight with the record label that was trying to push it.
Well, you had to have that kind of power to do that,
Yeah. Yep. I love it. It's such a great song. And then the record,
then we have side 2, because back then it was side 1 and side 2.
Got to get me a meal ticket. It's about trying to make it in the music industry again, about being hungry.
This was one of my favorite tracks on the album when I was a kid. This was like the rocker on the album, and he had his previous hits on like the album before on Caribou. He had The Bitches Back was a big single, and Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting was a big single off of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So this was in that vein. It's almost the same groove and tempo as Saturday Night or Bitches Back or Love Lies Bleeding from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So I think this was like modeled after, those rockers. And like I said earlier, it was a way to model side A and side B. You have an opening track for each side. This was a great opening track for side B, coming out of the gates with the rocker. And this was one of my favorites when I was a kid, just because I loved The Bitches Back and I love Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. Just fell into that category. This was kind of like that song for this album.
What about Better Off Dead? What do you think about Better Off Dead? I mean, according to Barry, who wrote Barry Toberman biography Elton, this song was inspired by his and Bernie's experience in the West End. After recording at the Dick James studio late into the night, they'd go to a burger bar where some of the clientele looked better off dead. So, and then of course there's a movie named after this with John Cusack. We should get him on the podcast. Why have we got John Cusack?
He's a big music fan. He loves Beastie Boys. He loves,
Are you serious?
Yeah. Dude, I'm pretty sure if you see the Beastie Boys movie of them at Madison Square Garden, there's footage of him in the audience rapping every line.
Dude, because we've got the Sgt. Pepper of Beastie Boys coming up.
I wanted that one, but
you're doing Captain.
Fantastic. I'm not gonna get greedy.
You're coming back, dude. Don't worry, Bo. Awesome. You're code red. You're code red on the Kagan scale. You're coming back, dude.
John Cusack. I just saw a video. It was him or Ben Stiller. I think it was both of them in this Beastie Boy movies. Ben Stiller and John Cusack were both famously in this Beastie Boys movie, if I'm remembering correctly.
Jer, do the research. Better Off Dead. We wrote this question, and I don't want to show disrespect to the people that we're going to talk about this, but it's like, not to be too on the nose, but you have been a ringer brought in when there are vacancies in bands. And, we're friends with Josh Freese. He's been on the show a few times, and he had to take a big role stepping in to fill in for Taylor for playing with Foo Fighters. And so not even so much what it's like when somebody passes away, but how does that work with filling in? Like when you did with Avenged Sevenfold, how do you, what's it like walking into that situation?
Well, I've had 2 situations filling in for drummers that passed. One was with Avenged Sevenfold and one was with Twisted Sister. And in both of those cases, I was called to come in and fill the shoes of their drummers that passed away tragically.
Yeah.
And in both of those cases, I'm being hired to do a job and a service. I'm not coming in there to push myself or my style on these bands with their music. I'm coming in there to pay respects to their fallen drummer. So in the case of Avenged and Twisted Sister, I learned the songs as closely as possible to pay respects to those drummers, the Rev and AJ Pirro, respectively. And that was my gig. That was my job. And that I wasn't there to give opinions about the set list or try to, play songs my way. And I assume it's similar with Josh with the Foo Fighters or anybody else that's been called into a situation like that. And then I've had other situations where I've been called in for one-off gigs. I've done one-off gigs with Stone Sour, Overkill, Fates Warning, Humphreys McGee, all kinds of different bands where in those cases, if it's a one-off, obviously it's harder to spend so much time to learn a whole set of songs exact if you're just doing a one-off. With Twisted or Avenged, it's for a long world tour. You got to really put in the work and the dedication. Whereas with these one-offs, you got to kind of sometimes get in there at short notice and just do the best you can. But because I'm such a big music fan and lover, in the case of like Avenged or Twisted, I knew most of those songs already from being a fan of those bands. So that definitely helps with the gig, when you know some of the songs to begin with.
Yeah. What's been one that like, not by say like the hardest to jump into, and it's not even about the depth of the situation, but it's just like where you were like, all right, either you don't know the songs and you really had to, like, was there ones where you were like going in, you were like, fuck, I hope this goes well?
Well, the hardest drumming of any fill-in gig I've done was probably with the band Fates Warning, they're old friends of mine. We've been friends for almost 40 years at this point, and they toured with Dream Theater, very similar stylistically with Dream Theater, but their drummer that I was filling in for, Mark Zonder, had a very specific style. And it's one thing if I'm going to go up and play a Twisted Sister song, it's a little more of a basic style, but Mark Zonder's style with Fates Warning was very specific and very stylized that it's hard to fake. And a lot of their fans even picked up with the way some of the times I had to simplify some of the things just to be able to get through the gig. It was a one-off gig. Learning a whole set list for a one-time thing it's a little harder I'm not a sight reader or somebody that can chart out the parts like the way somebody like Kenny Aronoff could. I'm just not that kind of a guy. So I would say the gig with Fates was probably the most challenging in terms of learning drum parts. But once again, I knew the songs for the most part, so I just played the songs rather than playing the drummer's parts.
Have you ever done a gig where you're just like cheesing through it because you're so excited, you're having so much fun? Like maybe it's just from the excitement of like, I can't believe I'm playing with these people, Twisted. Or it's just like Twisted.
Once I started playing with Twisted, I mean, there's pictures of me in my high school yearbook wearing Twisted Sister shirts because I grew up on Long Island in the 70s and early 80s when they were the hottest band on Long Island playing the club circuit. It was way before all the MTV, hits. So getting on stage to be able to be hearing, It's a Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll, is the intro music that they, were using in the club days in the 70s. Hearing that and then hearing, would you please welcome Twisted fucking Sister? The 17-year-old kid in me was like, here we go. Fuck yeah. Yeah. That was so much fun. Yeah.
I can imagine. All right, let's get through these last couple. Writing. It's about the process of writing. Thoughts on the song?
This is a throwaway. This is one of the ones that he didn't revisit in 2005 when they redid it. This one's a little too Jimmy Buffett for me. I don't know. But that brings us to the last two. The last two are pretty much the bread and butter of this album. Some would say My Life Tonight is the masterpiece on the album, but these last two, We All Fall in Love Sometimes and Curtains. Basically, it's chopped into two songs, but if you're listening to it, it's one 10-minute song with broken up into two. And I don't know if you want to go one at a time, but as far as
let's give them each the respect they deserve. We All Fall in Love Sometimes. I don't know if I have any. This is one of the most obscure songs off the record. It's one of the most memorable, though. Speaking in 2013, Elton said, "I cry when I sing this song because I was in love with Bernie."
Such a beautiful song.
But because he's the person I was looking for my entire life, my little soulmate. We'd come so far and we were still very naive. I was gay by that time. He was married, but he was a person that more than anything I loved. And the relationship we had was so odd because it was not tied to the hip. Thank God I wasn't tied to the hip because we wouldn't have lasted. That relationship is the most important relationship of my entire life. You think it's the most important relationship in your entire life? You've made billions of dollars together. Yeah. I mean, that's insane. Just the way I told that to somebody recently. I don't know where we were talking about it, but I said something about, because we were talking about the internet and how easy it is to find people now. And it's just like, he opened up a magazine and there he was, and he reached out, and next thing you know, you have Candle in the Wind. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your thoughts, obviously you said it better than I could have, but it's like talking about these closers. But what do you think, and how do you want to dig into these?
I think this, We All Fall in Love Sometimes, is as beautiful as Someone Saved My Life Tonight. It's very similar. The way that side one and side two both open with rockers, side one and side two both close with ballads. So it's similar placement in the track listing as Someone Saved My Life Tonight closing the A side. This and Curtains are closing the B side, but it's a very similar type of song. Beautiful chords, beautiful melodies, beautiful drumming by Nigel Olsson. Once again, another brilliant entrance when he chooses to enter the song. Mm-hmm. And the thing about Nigel's drumming, this song and Curtains, talk about drummers that play without click tracks. I mean, this is a perfect example. Albums like this are not made anymore. Nigel is so behind the beat and pulling back the tempo. Every time the chorus kicks in for this song, you could feel the tempo coming back. You know, you hear drummers like Charlie Watts or Stuart Copeland that would push the beat and get ahead of the beat. Nigel Olsson was one of the greatest drummers in pulling back the beat, pulling back the tempo, playing behind the beat. And this song and Curtains, the two that close this album, are great examples of that. Just really tasteful playing for the song, such amazing drumming. It also has a great guitar solo by Davey Johnston. But this, and I don't know if you want to go right into Curtains, but this connects into Curtains. And
yeah, it does.
It's absolutely beautiful. Curtains, to me, is probably Elton John's unsung masterpiece. I think it's one of his greatest songs that's so forgotten about, because it's like a coda, not only to We All Fall in Love, it's like almost like a coda for the entire album. And I don't know if you know the musical term coda, but it's almost like another song to trail off and become like the end vamp.
Yeah.
To not only the song that precedes it, but to the entire album that precedes it. And Curtains is just a lesson in musical restraint. It's almost like the whole song is just two chords, back and forth, just building. The anticipation of when Nigel's going to enter with those drums, when the melody is going to develop. This whole song is just a lesson in musical restraint, and the build and the anticipation is it's just one of my favorite forgotten songs of Elton's. It's just a perfect closer to this incredible album.
You ready to hear something that might blow your mind? Elton describes this song as crap.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he got it. Says in Susan Black's Elton John's own words.
Some people's garbage or other people's, and
the fans are disagree. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I mean, you're, I mean, it doesn't say why. It says Curtains appears to. Go ahead.
There's not much to it musically. Musically, like I just said, it's just almost two chords over and over. So maybe that's why he didn't feel there was much there. But to me, it was about the orchestration of the rest of the band members. I'm shocked to hear that, though, because to me, this is like one of those songs. Like if you meet an Elton John fan in the street and he's a real Elton John fan, he's gonna love this song. He's gonna know. He's gonna know about Curtains.
Yeah.
It's like one of those ones that, like, if you're a hardcore fan, you're gonna know about Dee Murray's bass playing. You're gonna know about Ray Cooper's percussion playing, and you're gonna know about Curtains. These are the elements that are so critical and crucial to what makes Elton and Bernie so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. It's probably one of, if not I love Somebody Saved My Life Tonight so much. So that's my favorite song, obviously. But like Curtains, the ending is what really made me go, because I was just so set on, the album's okay. I mean, why is it on here? I guess it's Somebody Saved My Life. Maybe it's the story. And then you get to the ending and you get these two incredible songs. It's nutty that he would describe it as crap, but like, I think you really gave a good option of probably why. So my questions for you, and I'm just going to backtrack to We All Fall in Love Sometimes. So it's about keeping going, the desire with being in love, and a lot of times in love, people plateau. What keeps you in love with music?
I'm just always going to be a fan, no matter what I'm doing, no matter how successful I get with my personal career. I'm still that 13-year-old kid listening to Kiss albums in my bedroom, back in 1976. It's just I'll never not be that. So music still inspires me, and it doesn't matter if it's a classic from the 60s or 70s, like Elton or Pink Floyd or The Who or anybody else we're talking about here, or modern bands like Radiohead or Ben Folds Five or Coldplay or whatever. There's so many modern bands that move me as well, and make music and albums that move me. I'm just addicted to music. It really.
But what about creating? I mean, like more
creating.
like what it keeps.
Well, for me.
Yeah, like what keeps you going? You've done so much. You've said your career has been 40 years at this point. I mean, what keeps you? Is it the exploring? Is it because I feel like you figured it out? You're a master of your craft.
I surround myself with musicians that inspire me. I mean, I spent 25 years in Dream Theater, the first round. Then I came back, and now we're, celebrating our 40th anniversary. But just coming back to these guys after being away, that inspires me. When we're making this latest album, Parasomnia, it is the band's 16th album, but it's very inspired. We are inspired by each other. We hadn't written together in a while, so that really inspired us, being back together, knowing that the fans are going to be excited by this lineup being back together. The fan base's anticipation, that is a big part of it. The years I was out of Dream Theater, I was out for all those years and doing dozens and dozens of different bands, working with everybody from Paul Gilbert to Billy Sheehan to Richie Kotzen to Steve Morse and to, the guys in Megadeth and Testament in the thrash band, and doing classic rock bands with the music with the Winery Dogs. Each one of those bands had different lineups and different musicians that inspired me and invigorated me to be able to write music with Steve Morse. To me, that was a dream come true, being a Dregs fan. So to me, that's what keeps me going. I'm 40 years into my career professionally, but it's a cross between the musicians I work with and the fans that support it. Those are the two elements that just keep me going.
Yeah, totally. I was a perfect way to explain it, because I was trying to, you get to a certain place and, it's like you see some of these comedians or even actors, or you see someone like Daniel Day-Lewis, who is such a master of his craft, and then he stops and you're like, but God,
he just announced today he's coming back after a 7-year layover.
Oh,
just announced.
Is he today. Really?
Yeah, his son is directing a film, so he agreed to act in it. So he's coming out of retirement.
But I want to fucking. You
want There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. I just watched Gangs in New York when I was on the road in Tulsa, and I was like, it was the best part of the whole goddamn trip, Right. And it's one of those things where you're like, why would you stop? But I guess at a certain point for someone like him, it's like he's just done it, and also he probably lives as those characters. And that's got to be taxing on him to suddenly, to be Abraham Lincoln for 4 months, right. But
to me, there's always little goals. You look at Daniel Day-Lewis. Okay, he worked with Scorsese, he worked with P.T. Anderson. And I feel like that. Like, I've worked with this producer, I've worked with that artwork guy, or I've played this venue. I've played Madison Square Garden. I've played Wembley Arena. Played the Budokan in Japan. So it's these little milestones that keep me going. Like, I still never played Royal Albert Hall in London. Or there's I never played Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, which is my hometown. So there's these little benchmarks that still keep you going and keep you to wanting more, to still try to achieve that little goal.
Do you guys talk about it? So like you said, the Nassau Coliseum, I mean, do you say to them hey, why don't we throw in a fucking little skadoodle in Long Island?
When is this airing? Do you know when this is airing?
This is Jer. When does this one come out?
Okay, we got by the time this airs, our U.S. tour for the fall will be announced, and we're playing Nassau Coliseum for the first time. So there you go. I mean, that's where I saw everybody from Pink Floyd to the Stones to Paul McCartney to Kiss when I was a kid. So it's these little benchmarks, that keep you going. Like we've never played there after 40 years, and
That's
now
crazy.
we finally are.
I
So
know.
it's things
Congratulations,
like that
dude.
it's things like that just keep you inspired.
I mean, I'll pull it up right here. I look at it every day. When the rock venues 930 Club in Washington D.C. is like me and Jeremiah have seen a million bands there.
Exactly.
And I sold it out, with the help of the DC Improv, but the second I did that, it's like, and we get so caught up in our bullshit of life. We hold on to the losses more than we hold on to the wins.
Right.
And so, and if you would have told me as a little kid, I would have played the 930 Club, or like you would have told the little kid listening to Kiss records, hey, that Coliseum that you're seeing Pink Floyd at, you're going to fucking play here. Right. That's amazing, man. Yeah. So congrats. And then this is a weird way to end before we do our final questions, but being curtains, this is too on the nose. It's the last song. We've asked this question to a lot of people. What song would you want played at your funeral?
Oh, wow. Well, we're talking Elton. I got to say Funeral for a Friend by Elton John, opening track off of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which Dream Theater covered on our EP, A Change of Seasons. There's a cover of us doing Love Lies Bleeding and Funeral for a Friend. I mean, that's the answer I have to give at this moment, just because we're talking Elton. Yeah. And it happens to be one of my favorite songs of all time as well. So I have to go with that one.
But if not, Crazy Bitch by Buck Cherry, huh? Right.
Yeah. Well, Crazy Horses by the Osmonds.
Dude, this was so great. This is the code red on the Kagan scale is well deserved. You will be coming back, I hope, man. We really had a blast.
So much
promote before we do the final questions. Promote away. Anything you want to promote? You mentioned the tour, but album, anything? Just go ahead and just drop it here. We'll say it at the beginning too.
Okay. I'm in the middle of a year and a half tour cycle with Dream Theater. Started October of last year, and it's going to go till spring of next year. We've just been touring the world, South America, Europe, North America. We've already done all three of those markets, and now we're about to head back to Europe for the summer, doing all the metal festivals, playing with everybody from Maiden to Priest to Scorpions to Muse. It's just the metal festivals over there all summer long are just so awesome. So we'll be doing that throughout June and July, as well as playing some cool shows of our own. Another bucket list venue, we're playing at Pompeii, where Pink Floyd played it in 50 years ago. So once again, another venue bucket list for Dream Theater that we're doing this summer. Yeah. And then in the fall, we have our next North American leg in September and October, which will be playing our new album, Parasomnia, in its entirety, as well as another set of catalog classics. And we'll be going on the Parasomnia tour through spring of next year. And it's my first time back with the band in a while. And, the reception from the fans on me coming back and the reunion of this lineup has just been so overwhelming and so emotional. Each and every show has just been so great.
Oh, I bet, man. I'm definitely going to come to one of the shows. Okay, so are you playing all these incredible festivals, and you couldn't have said it better. Do the Europeans, they know and they love music differently than Americans do. I'd much rather go to a festival in Europe than go to Coachella, regardless of the lineup. It's just, if you really want to be around music fans, who are you most excited to be on the same bill with? Is there a band that you're like, oh man, I know you had mentioned Muse, but I'm assuming you might have played with them before, or like.
Actually, they're one of the ones that we haven't played with before. We've played with Maiden many times. We've toured with Megadeth, and the list goes on and on. Yes, and all these bands. But yeah, playing with Muse is going to be really cool. Playing with Judas Priest is going to be cool too. And Andy Sneap, the guy that's been playing guitar for Glenn Tipton, he actually mixed our latest album, so it'll be great to see him.
Cool.
He's part of the Dream Theater family, extended family. But yeah, playing with Priest will be great. We have a show with Avenged Sevenfold, which will be interesting, being, I played with them for a while.
Yeah.
But every one of these festivals are going to be amazing. I love getting to hang with all the bands, because I'm friends with so many people in other bands. And Dream Theater a lot of time does these evening with tours, or just us for 3 hours a night. So when we get to do these festivals and I get to hang and play with so many other bands that I'm friends with, it's such a blast, and I love it.
I can't agree with you more. I'm so happy for you, man. And I'm so happy you came on. We asked these questions to everybody. Favorite song on the record?
On Captain Fantastic?
Captain Fantastical.
It has to. I mean, as much as I have love for Curtains, as we've already talked about, Someone Saved My Life Tonight is just one of the best written songs of all time. It's the melody and the progression is just a masterpiece. So I'd have to go with that. Yeah.
It is. Is there anything that you skip over?
The writing and what was Curtains and not Curtains, excuse me, writing and Bitter Fingers or Take the Wheels. Tell me when the wheels. I mean, those to me are the throwaway tracks. To be honest.
Okay. Can you fuck to this record?
Well, yeah. Apparently, you can bisexually as well to either a man or a woman.
Yeah, there you go.
Apparently,
make a difference.
But I don't know. There's not much. I don't know. It's not one of those.
It's not a fuckable record.
Nah.
Do you think can you fuck to if what right? Because knowing your music, what is the Dream Theater album you think that you could fuck to? If you had, I mean, it must be odd for you because you know what's going on and you're like, well, we were hungry that day.
Well, the songs are so long, you better have fucking stamina if you're gonna fuck to a Dream Theater song or album. I mean, the albums are made up of 15, 20-minute songs, so you better not be a one pump wonder.
I don't even know if I can at this age of 45. I don't think I can make it through the fucking track 2 or 3. Maybe
you wouldn't even get to the first verse. You wouldn't even get to the vocals,
dude. It's like wait. And before I want to say this because Morty wrote this to me. He said, before we have you sum up the record, he wanted me to say I think two things. He wants to give a shout out to Richie Kozen, who is the guitar player in the Winery Dogs.
Yeah.
Right. With you, and he believes he's from Philadelphia, so you can say, speaking of, we didn't talk about Philadelphia Frina, but Morty wants to give a shout out to your boy.
That's a
Richie.
bonus track anyway. It wasn't on the original.
Yeah. Which is a great song too.
Oh yeah.
And then it says, I think it's important about this record is that it really shows the integrity of the partnership. The lyrics and the musicality are not patronizing to the audience. The mission statement of writing about the early days in a chronological fashion, it's still being a huge success, is a testament to their progress. Even now, Elton still votes a certain amount of time live to him playing with his band as a musician, which a lot of other artists might have stopped doing just to be performing their hits. Elton is also a big proponent of showcasing new talent and underrepresented talent. That's an admirable quality in a legacy musician who doesn't really need to do that. Yeah, he's something else, man. What would be your elevator pitch, Mike, to get someone to listen to this record? How do you sum it up?
Well, it's my second favorite of his. That's not much. That's not much of a sales pitch because "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" is, to me, from start to finish, a masterpiece. This one has its ebb and flow. But the highs on this album are amazing, and I think it's just a great time capsule for 1975 when Elton was just sitting on top of the world, and he was the pinball wizard with the Who, and he was. Whatever Gets You Through the Night with John Lennon. And, he was just sitting on top of the world at this place and time. And it was the last album of this incredible band. And to me, it goes beyond just Elton and Bernie, the band was so important for this album and the ones that preceded it. So it's my second favorite Elton album. And that's saying a lot, being he's been doing this for almost 60 years at this point.
It really is. I don't know. Would you say if you're an Elton fan, this is the first record to dive into? How would you set somebody off into an Elton run? If they've never listened to Elton, what would you lead them into first?
Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That to me is his masterpiece from top to bottom. I mean, it has one of the most perfect album sides ever. I know we're not talking about that album, but the side 1, Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, Candle in the Wind, Benny and the Jets. Are you fucking kidding me? Hit after hit after hit. And then keep going now. You have the title track. You have Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. So to me, Yellow Brick Road is the quintessential Elton album, with this being the runner-up.
Yeah,
this is like you're talking Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's the masterpiece, but then you got to also talk about the White Album as a runner-up. You're talking about Radiohead, you're going to say OK Computer, but then you can't dismiss the Bends. The Bends is the runner-up, and this is like that for Elton. For me.
Yeah. What would you say this is if you had to compare this to the Beatles? Is this their White Album?
I think so, because it's eclectic and not every song on it is great. Not every song on the White Album is great. You have Wild Honey Pie and fucking Obla Di Obla Da and some, Maxwell's Abbey Road. But anyway, Abbey Road's filled with these kind of clunkers, these in between songs, and I think this is similar in that respect. But the highs on this are real highs.
They're high, yeah, they really are.
So it's similar in that respect.
So wait, now what Radiohead record would you say this is?
I would say this is the Bends. You know, the Bends.
This is the Bends? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I thought you were saying that
Kid A, or more like Kid A. Maybe.
Kid A. No. It's like what would be his Kid A?
Do you prefer Kid A or do you prefer the Bends?
I think Kid A is a better record, but I think OK Computer is their best record. Well, no, let me rephrase that. I think OK Computer is their best record. And I think Kid A is their best record. I think it's a mess. I think Kid A is I love OK Computer more than I love Kid A, but I think Kid A is like I would give somebody I think I would give somebody OK Computer to listen to first if I was going to say listen. Well, really, the Bends. I guess you got to go.
The Bends is my number 2 for Radiohead because the Bends is more like Revolver. Revolver was this group of amazing songs, and then they exploded experimentally with Sgt. Pepper. It's the same with the Bends. A group of amazing songs, but then they got into the studio experimentation with OK Computer, and then, in my opinion, they went too far with Kid A. And to me, that's like their White Album. To be honest, it's hit or miss moments. I would take the Bends as the number 2 for me.
I think King of Limbs is where they went too far. You're like, all right, guys, fucking tone it down, dude. Like the second half of the record saves that. Dude, I know we're so like off topic, but I was DJing at a strip club during that time when King of Limbs came out. It was a day shift, and I remember King of Limbs. I downloaded it and I put it on while girls were getting lap dances, and it's just like, I mean, you can't mush a dick to that. There's no beat to it. It's like boop doop doop boop doop doop.
I just who did I just see an interview with? I just saw an interview with somebody, and they were saying the most awkward thing in the world was their music being played in a strip club because it was just who was that? Damn it. Anyway, side note.
Either way, you're coming back, dude. You're coming back. I would love
to. There's some amazing albums on this top 500 that I mean, and I'm not the prog guy. I could sit here and talk to you about the first Clash album, or London Calling, or Nevermind the Bollocks. I could talk to you about that, or a Radiohead album. So it's not. I'm just not the prog guy. You know,
don't worry, you're not coming on. Eclectic. You're not coming on for anything that feels that way. We're going to make sure that you're back. You are a code red on the Kagan scale. She's actually texting me right now. She's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, dude, fucking this guy. I mean, he's a Holocaust denier. He's crazy. Dude, thank you, buddy. This was great, man.
Thank you, man. My pleasure, man.